Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. David Morrel is not Rigondeaux or Lara. Now make sure you like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. I leave that donation. Yes, this is a Cuban and a Mexican fighting. Beans and rice. Now, and some chuleta. Now listen. This whole thing about the Cuban style and the footwork and the technique and the slickness and all that, right? That's true. But I don't think that's true for David Morrel. Now, he can fight. He's got athleticism. He's got footwork. He's got it. And he'll tell you he can dance. But he ain't no damn Rigondeaux. He ain't no Lara. And we gotta be honest about him. You know who he reminds me of? And this is just my 2 cents. You may not agree. He reminds me of Fernando Vargas. And what I mean is, with those hard punches, it's not one shot to tranquilize you, but just super heavy hands coming along, throwing his combinations, just trying to break you down. But for me, he's not moving like Lara and Rigondeaux. Now, you know, Rigondeaux, with his angles and footwork and slickness, and the way he got that left hand off, Rigondeaux could be down in the fight. Rigondeaux could be hurt in the fight. But he just had the timing, the footwork, the athleticism, the IQ, and the ability, especially the way he sets traps with his angles and his technique. He had the ability to pull it out with one single shot. Lara. You watch him, and people out here who don't know who he is, right? Or they just see him fighting at 160 like, this guy's 41 years old. What's he doing? You know what? You don't know much about Lara. You want to talk about the Canelo fight. Oh, he ran the whole fight. You know, he was a boxer runner that fight. He's no boxer puncher. You go watch the first fight. It's the first time I learned of Lara when he fought Paul Williams. You go watch that fight, okay? Then you come back and let's have a conversation. You want to see talent beyond comprehension, that Cuban style of fighting? You go watch that. Now let's come back to David Morrel. All right, and this is Rigondeaux and Lara doing this shit at an elite level. Now let's come back to David Morrel after you watch those guys fight, and you come back and tell me that David Morrel is fighting in that same style. And then you watch Fernando Vargas fight, and you come back and you tell me, okay, which one of those fighters you think he looks like the most? Okay. But for that reason, I think we may be giving Morrel too much credit as being the classic Cuban boxer. I don't think he's that guy. He's definitely Cuban. He definitely learned how to fight in Cuba. But I think has some of those characteristics that they display in the ring, and I think he's kind of evolved that as well. If you take a look at Andy Cruz, who's fighting up underneath Bozy Ennis, right? Andy Cruz beat Keyshawn Davis 4 times in the amateurs. But you watch Andy Cruz, the way he was fighting when he first turned pro. Slick, amazing, typical Cuban style of fighting, making you pay. I mean, the stuff he was doing was amazing. But again, it was against, lower tier opposition. But since he's been with Bozy Ennis, he's been kind of changing his style of fighting. And he's not fighting like Rigondeaux or Lara. To me, Lara and Rigondeaux stuck with the Cuban style. Hit and don't get hit, use your legs, move around. Andy Cruz is more holding his ground, can still do all of those things, but it's more holding his ground and trying to land his shots. And that's, to me, Andy Cruz and David Morrel have got kind of evolved that Cuban style of fighting into more of a professional hybrid Cuban/American style. Now, whether you disagree with me or not about that, I can't see how anyone can disagree with me when I say David Morrel does not fight in the same style of Lara and Rigondeaux. You watch Rigondeaux and you watch Lara fight, you can see that these guys are trying to hit and not get hit. You know what I'm saying? Now you watch Luis Ortiz, he's a heavyweight. Of course he can't float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. But Morrel may be lining up more like a Luis Ortiz. But it could be because of his size too. Morrel is not a small cat. He cuts down to 175, enters the ring at over 200. He's a big dude, standing 6'2". He's got some size, man. and that could also affect his mobility. But don't get it wrong at all. David Morrel is the real deal. Now, when he gets into the ring this weekend against David Benavidez, I don't think he's going to be too slick for David Benavidez. If he discovered a strong, effective jab, right, and he stays behind that and comes out there with the Tito Trinidad jab, the Winky right jab, the Ike Corte jab, if he comes out there with the Lennox Lewis jab, even Obakar had a crazy jab when he was in his prime. If he comes out there with that kind of jab, I just think he could make that fight very difficult. But he's not really that style of fighter, man. You know what I'm saying? He's not really that style of fighter. If he don't discover a jab, well, I'm telling you, I think some people who are rooting for Morrel think they're gonna be heartbroken because he's not really gonna try to use his legs and move around. You know, fatigue sets in, and when you got somebody like Benavidez who's not slowing down, he's throwing hundreds of punches at your ass, and they're all hard. I just think if Morrel can't time him, can't, kind of tap into them Cuban boxing ancestors that he have and have the spirits in the ring with him and shit, he going to be in bad shape. But at the end of the day, he can scrap. And this is a true 50-50 fight. When I keep hearing people talk about the Cuban style and the Cuban style, you know what the Cuban style was when we saw it supposedly on full display? Not Casamayor. The Cuban style was Lara against Canelo when Lara ran around that damn ring. That was the Cuban style, and they clowned him for that. Morrel isn't that kind of fighter. He's going to stand there, he's going to fight, and I just think this weekend, no matter who wins, right, I think somebody getting knocked out. And I think it's going to be embarrassing for both of them. Because look, if David Morrel wins, I should save this for another video, he goes on to bigger and better things. But if David Benavidez wins, he goes on to things that are much greater than what David Morrel will go on to if Morrel wins. So Morrel, he's got to win. David Benavidez, I think, will be all right no matter what. But if David Benavidez gets to win, his win will be much bigger for his career than Morrel. If David Morrel beats Benavidez, I don't think his win is going to be all that. I think if he beats Benavidez, it's going to be like when Zaire Rahim beat Eric Morales. He beat Morales when Morales was in his prime. Zaire Rahim should have been out of here, getting all the big fights, making all the money. Nothing happened for that dude. Nothing. Okay? And I think it's going to be the same thing with Morrel. If he beats Benavidez, I don't think nothing's going to happen. For those of you who don't know, I'm talking about with Zaire Rahim and Eric Morales. Go look it up. Nothing happened for Zaire Rahim. Nothing. He should have went on to be making $5, $8, $9, $10 million a fight after he beat Eric Morales. Nothing happened. And I can see the same thing with Morrel. David Benavidez is more marketable than Morrel. Like Morrel, maybe because a lot of people still don't know who he is, but Benavidez is more marketable because you got Mike Tyson supporting him and pushing him. Everybody's promoting this dude. You know, his story's interesting. A little kid, parents split, was boxing, was 170 pounds. Dad and brother went to California to pursue boxing, stayed with his mom, ballooned up to 250. Came to California with his dad, took a year and a half to cut that weight down to about 190, 180, sparring, monsters like Pavlik, what's his name, Latif Coyote, Peter Quillen, Triple G, when he was 15 years old. That shit is crazy. So when you look at it, Morrel, he's got some work to do. I think a win over Benavidez can help kind of catapult him the direction he wants to go, but no matter the release on that catapult, I don't think it can get him any higher, as high as what a win over Morrel would do for Benavidez. I just think Benavidez to me is just the chosen one. That's just how I see it. I just think no matter what happens here, Benavidez is the chosen one. All eyes are on Benavidez. He's expected to win, but boy, if he loses, I think some people are gonna jump off the bridge in the river with man-eating crocodiles and try to go kiss one because they're gonna go crazy. They're gonna start committing suicide around here. But anyway, y'all keep cool. David Morrel is a great fighter, but he ain't Rigondeaux or Lara. His style's totally different. I personally think he's more like a guy, like a damn Fernando Vargas, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, keep cool in the breeze.